if we were meeting here 3 years from today, what needs to happen for you to be happy with your progress? Whether it's personally or professionally, what do you want to see happen?
Hey everybody, I'm Jamie White, founder of finishing-strong.org, and I want to thank you for joining us for another podcast. Finishing Strong is dedicated to helping people who are transitioning from working full-time to something else and helping them discover how to live this next season with purpose. Through our website, finishing-strong.org, we provide resources to help guide people in a process to evaluate their gifts, talents, and passions, and to redefine their purpose. Most people spend a lot of time planning financially for this season, but they have not considered the significant and emotional impact this transition can have. We help them through our weekends or our online resources to better facilitate that process. Look for updates on our website for upcoming weekends. Today, we're joined by Steve Booren, founder of Prosperion, an investment management firm located in Greenwood Village, Colorado. You can learn more about Steve and Prosperion at www.prosperion.us. Steve is a longtime friend and advisor, and I know you will enjoy his insights today. Because we are talking about financial matters, this disclosure is required to be read. So here goes the disclosure. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Steve Booren is a registered representative with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member of FINRA/SIPC. Hey, everybody. We are excited today to have Steve Booren, who's the founder of Prosperion, join us today. I've known Steve for a long time. He is an investment management advisor. He's built an incredibly impressive organization called Prosperion. And so first, Steve, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here with us.
You bet, Jamie. I'm grateful.
So tell us first, a lot of listeners won't know about your firm, but tell us a little bit about Prosperion. Give us some history and tell us what you guys do.
Well, thank you. Prosperion is a firm that I started after leaving a very successful career with a major investment firm. Started as E.F. Hutton. They changed their name to Smith Barney. They changed their name to Shearson, E.F. Hutton to Shearson, Shearson to Smith Barney, Smith Barney to Morgan Stanley. I kept getting new business cards involuntarily through the mail. I left actually 27 years ago yesterday and started Prosperion.
Happy anniversary, first of all. That's an incredible marker. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. So what we are is a firm that has a passion to help people. We help people, we help solve problems, and we get paid by managing their assets. So that's what we do. We help people. As long as there are people out there with problems, we've got plenty of inventory, plenty of opportunities to help people. And my gosh, there's lots and lots of people who are needing, wanting, and willing to follow advice. There's a what we call a bull market for advice, and that's what we do.
So people are familiar with some firms, or they've got maybe their brokers talks about the size firm that they have. What's the I guess the right way to say it, the amount of assets that you manage?
So we manage about $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion in assets for about 600 families that are spread out across the country. So we have 10 advisors here on 5 different teams. Each advisor operates kind of like a silo. So I don't tell advisors what to do or how to invest, or I let them be creative and imaginative and use their minds to serve their clients. So we don't pass clients around. We don't operate like an ensemble. Today you get Steve, tomorrow you get Greg. We are very personal, very siloed. What I wanted to do is create a firm that's made up of advisors who care beyond advice, and that's our tagline, if you will, who care about their clients, that literally own their clients, so that at the end of the day, they're the ones that are serving their clients. They're the ones that know their clients. So we're collegial, collaborative, but at the end of the day, the advisors are the ones that are closest to them.
I love it that you said we manage assets for over 600 families, and I think oftentimes whoever's listening to this might have the relationship with the advisor and think it's just a person to person, mano a mano. But what you do is not just solve problems or issues or challenges for individuals, but you really are impacting entire families.
Yep, we do, and we love it. We get to do this. It's really good.
That's great. So let's go. So if someone came to you and said, okay, is there an overall investment philosophy for Prosperion? Do you guys take a philosophy and apply that? And I'm sure there's some variance by client, but what would you describe the investment philosophy of Prosperion?
Yeah. So not to be commercial, but we believe that the only reason why people invest money, the only reason why you save money year after year, put money away, is for income. It's either income today or income tomorrow. If it's income today, you're in a mode where you're wanting to receive cash flow to live, to enjoy, to have the kind of life that you want to have. If it's income tomorrow, you're building. Much of the financial services industry has this theoretical or school book almost strategy of grow while you're in your vocational years. So from 25 to 65, you put money away, it's grow. Then when you have your 65th birthday, click, you shift to income. And then you have income during that third chapter of your life, which 35 to 40 years is what we think about when we think about that's that third chapter. Well, that approach of grow, then flipping the switch to income, is pretty dangerous. Imagine the guy that decided that he was going to retire April of 2020. And that was just about the time when everybody started wearing masks. And oh, by the way, the market went down 35% in 35 days. And interest rates were 1 and change. So if you chose to do that, you had a bad day because your timing was terrible. Values went down and you're looking to generate income and lock in cash flow when the yield or what you would receive is at generational low levels, multi-generational levels. So we think that that's a pretty dangerous approach. We believe that it's much smarter to begin to build that cash flow, start that wheel, almost like a snowball. The Warren Buffett book called Snowball is a great example of that, where you start a business, generates income, generates cash flow, you reinvest that cash flow, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it creates this snowball for you. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you take the income while you're in your accumulation phase, while you're in your vocation, but you've got it reinvesting. but how easy it is then to flip the switch and receive the cash flow that you've been reinvesting previously. So it's all about income today or income tomorrow. How we do that, the strategy, we believe in investing in businesses that are profitable, that everybody, every day, everywhere buys their stuff. So it's really technical. So everybody, every day, everywhere buys and uses UPS. They go to Starbucks. They use iPhones. They use Procter & Gamble products. So it's investing in those businesses. Some people might say, well, you're buying stock. Stock is a form of the ownership. But when I invest in UPS, I own a piece of that company. And it's an entirely different mindset than buying a stock. So own the business. Those businesses need to be profitable. They must pay a dividend, and that dividend must grow. What we look for is businesses that are growing their dividends at a rate 2 to 3 times the inflation rate. What does that do then? It results in cash flow that's growing faster than inflation. And for people in that, okay, I want to retire mode, protecting your purchasing power, making sure that your money buys the same groceries that it did a year ago is vital. Just in simple terms, we want to make sure that your purchasing power is protected. We stress to people that you're going to see the value of your portfolio wiggle. We promise. People don't spend the value. People spend the income off of the value. So it's a different mentality. It's a different mindset in terms of how we invest and why we invest. Why do we invest? Cash flow that grows. How do we invest? Owning businesses that pay and grow dividends. So very old-fashioned, very Warren Buffety, very boring, but it works. So.
I don't think people mind boring when the results come through as you describe. What a perfect philosophy for what we've been experiencing here in the last couple of years with inflation running rampant and purchasing power is kind of slipping through our fingers. And in light of that, share a story with you. Probably yesterday for sure, and I believe there's another conversation I had last week with a friend in their 60s who, they're watching value. They're looking at the value, or they looked at the end of last year and saw the value in their portfolio go down. And it turns into some pretty significant hand wringing, and kind of, I'm 60 something years old and I just watched my value go down by X%. And it was across the board. Our company has a 401k plan. We probably have 40 different options for employees in that. And I was talking to our manager of our plan and said, all right, of all the options that our employees had, how many of them made any money in 2023? And it was 2. It was basically the passbook 2% savings accounts, the most conservative type of investment. And so we've all felt that, and people who are in this 50s and 60s age range in particular, that it happened to everybody, but they have this fresh look at it like, oh my gosh, am I going to have enough money to make it through? So let me ask you this. So you've advised hundreds of clients who are in this season that finishing strong is about, people in their 50s and 60s, transitioning from working full-time to something else, whatever that something else has been. What are some of the things that you've observed about their financial habits, positive or negative, during and kind of post this transition period? What have you seen with your clients?
Yeah, some people do this really well. that is move through this retirement process and this retirement stage. Some people don't do it well, wring in their hands and maybe have more of a fear-based mentality. The mistakes that people make are the things like checking the value of their portfolio on their phone every day. So I doubt if you have some nice trees in your backyard. I doubt if you go and dig up your trees to check to see how they're doing every day. No, if you do, you're really going to irritate those trees and they're probably going to die. The same thing with checking the value of your portfolio over and over constantly. All that does is create anxiety. And I'm sad to say, this is why I decided to have my own firm. I'm sad to say, but our industry, the financial services industry, promotes this, checking the value every day. And categorically, our industry promotes it with ads, TV. I mean, people are bombarded by it. The technique that is used is doubt. It's doubt. Well, your portfolio, if I took care of it, it would do much better.
Sure.
It's doubt. And what that is, it's using doubt to sell. And financial services companies are in business to get people to change. And so that tends to be a challenge for people initially. What's interesting is over time, they will say, gosh, I don't worry. I had a conversation today with a lady who is mid-70s, and she said, "Oh, Steve, I remember back when I was in my late 50s and 60s, and I was nervous as can be." And she said, over and over, you've coached me to not worry about those things because worrying about it really didn't help. And she said, I laugh about what my behavior was like then, and I'm grateful that it's changed. But she said, I just don't worry about that anymore. And that's good because now she knows that she's got rising cash flow. And what it's worth doesn't matter. It's like what's happened recently with real estate values. Well, 2 years ago, real estate values, by the way, you can go check the value on your phone with this thing called Zillow, and they would tell you kind of what they think your house is worth.
Sure.
Well, today, you lost $100,000, according to Zillow, in your house. What are you going to do? Are you going to run out and sell it? With real estate, it's hard to sell. I mean, it's emotional, and the friction to sell is really difficult. But does the value of your house matter? What matters is when you go home tonight, you hug your wife, you receive the dividend of your house, which is warm, comfortable. You get to bring your family together. You get to party there. You get to enjoy it. You get to take your socks off and run your toes through the carpet if we need to get graphic. Okay. But that's the dividend of that. And does it matter if your house price is here or here or here? The only time the price matters is the day you buy it or the day you sell it. And that's the same thing with investing in a business. The only day that the price really matters is when you buy it or sell it. And we try to be very price versus value oriented. We want to buy a business when the price is here and the value is clear up here, undervalued. So there are companies we love, wouldn't add them today because they're overpriced. Like this company. I hate using this as an example all the time, but It's effective.
Yeah, no, you're the master of metaphors and master of comparisons, and I say the master because you take a simple comparison or metaphor like the tree and the roots, your house, and we can wrap our arms around that much more than we can maybe the complexities of investing.
Yeah.
You just recently published a second or third book called Blind Spots: The Mental Mistakes Investors Make, and looking forward to spending more time with that book. But tell me, in there, can you narrow that or take what you've said in the book and talk about how the psychology of investing and kind of answering some of those questions, why people panic and sell at the bottom? Why do we all want to follow the hot tip? The guy at the golf course said, hey, you got to get in this one. I made 20% on it last week, or whatever. We follow those deals. In the 50s and 60s, that becomes, the impact of that becomes even more profound. So how help us to keep from making those mistakes? What can you tell us to keep from falling for those, whether it's the ads or the temptations or the psychology that says, if I do this, I'll do better?
Yeah. You're right. There's a whole series of mistakes that we make. One would be anchoring. So my house, according to Zillow, a year ago was this number, 600,000 or a million.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's 800 or 900. But I think it's worth $1 million. That's called anchoring. You anchor to a price. And I'm not going to sell until I either get up to that price or it's above that price. Your house doesn't really care what your mind anchored as a price. It doesn't really care. And the market really doesn't care. So many times anchoring, people make that as a mistake. That's, kind of it's a mental mistake. All these are mental mistakes, frankly. The biggest one that people make, that folks that are going through this process of deciding, okay, I'm going to stop trading my time for money, which is that's a way of thinking about work. I trade my time for money. But one of the biggest mistakes is the fear of missing out. It's the guy at the golf course that says, oh, gee, I did this, or I bought that, and you should have done this. And comparison then sets in, and comparison is one of those deceitful things that goes in our mind, and we say to ourselves, well, dang, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I see that? It's that fear of missing out, thinking that somebody else is going to have more than you, or is going to be better off than you, or has more than you. And, the sad thing is, as human beings, there's a lot of that comparison stuff that goes on. And again, it goes on between our ears. So helping people to understand what's in your neighbor's portfolio doesn't really matter. What matters is what your assets are doing for you. Because, unless you bring them in as a roommate, what matters is your plan, your portfolio, that it's working for you. So fear of missing out, FOMO, is something that people do a lot. And again, it gets to doubt, and doubt causes anxiety. And, the people that really do this well, that retire well, they tend to be delegators. They get really clear about what they want. They have a plan that's documented, almost time specific, amount specific, and they let go. They're delegators, and when they do that, and it's in an aligned fashion with whomever they use, if they're aligned, they retire really well. And they can enjoy the things, they can enjoy the fruits of accumulating. They can enjoy the time that they now are looking forward to, whether it's playing tennis more or golf or playing with their grandkids, chasing each other around, husbands and wives chasing each other around, spending time with their family and their friends. We see people do that. They do that really, really well. Characteristically, they know what they want. They're real clear about it. They have a plan, and their portfolio, their strategy, their life is aligned with that plan and aligned with their goal.
Yeah. No, that's great. So a couple walks into your office. They're in their 60s. Say he's just maybe get freedom now to leave his 401k or whatever savings plan he's had, or maybe they just want something different. Their previous friend retired or sold his business or whatever, and they come into you and they're in their 60s and they sit across the table from you and they say, we think we've got enough financial resources that we won't outlive it, but nobody knows that. But they feel like they've got or for them, they've got enough between Social Security and their investments and so forth. And they come to you and they say, we would like to consider having you manage these investments for us and help us create that income for the rest of our lives. What does that first conversation look like for you? What are some of the things that you explore? What are some of the things that people should be thinking about maybe before they even get to your office? But what are some things that you encourage people to think about, talk about, plan for, and just kind of as a part of their own swing thoughts? How do you counsel them?
Yeah. Well, we go through before we talk about money or numbers. We go through 4 questions, and they are first and foremost wanting to understand their future. And we ask, if we were meeting here 3 years from today, what needs to happen for you to be happy with your progress? Whether it's personally or professionally, what do you want to see happen? So if you take today, think about your age, jump forward 3 years, look back, tell me what you want to see, play the movie. And what that tells us is what their goals are. It tells us what they want. We want them to describe to us the house that they want. So we don't go to Home Depot and buy 2x4s and lumber and nails and screws and concrete because we're going to build a house. No. We want to understand what you want. Do you want a ranch style? Do you want 2-story? Do you want colonial, contemporary? Do you want a condo? What do you want? What's your dream? So we want to understand their dream. And we want to understand it personally, professionally, resource-wise, financially. We want to understand that. Why 3 years? People can relate to 3 years. We can think back 3 years ago, we were starting to buy masks, and that was yesterday. So people can relate to that. But when you ask someone, 10 years from today, that's a hard thing to get your head around. 20 years from today, 30 years from today, well, we're in our mid-90s. How can we conceptualize that? 3 years, you can tell. So we want to understand that 3-year period. Second is, what keeps you up at night? The second question, what are your fears? What are the dangers that you see? Not that are necessarily there, but what dangers do you see? Do you feel? We want to understand that. Now, what we try to do then is remove those dangers. We want to eliminate them. Why? Because if I understand your goals, your direction, and I take away your dangers, you're appreciating the relationship that we have. It's deeper than financial. The third question is, what makes you jump out of bed in the morning? You know, what's your fears in bed, and then what makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Well, that's what excites you. That's what you lean into. That's where your biggest opportunities are. We want to understand those, what they are for you. And the last question is, Jamie, what would your best friend, Rhonda, say Jamie White is genius at fill in the blank? Jamie White could write the book about. This is Jamie's unique ability. He does it better than anybody, and it's like breathing to him. It's so easy. So those are your strengths. If I know where your goals are, a real clear picture of that, and I've helped you to understand that, and I think about and help you to identify your risks that you think are risks, and we figure out a plan to remove those risks. If we remind you of your biggest opportunities, and we show you or help you leverage your genius, your unique ability, our relationship is, wow. That's before we do anything. We have to get real clear about that. We take that, we develop a game plan. The game plan, we take your answers for what you've told us, and it's like a lens that we look through every time we make a decision or have advice for you. We're wanting to look through that lens. And frankly, it helps us to do a better job for you.
That's great. Well, if you're watching this, then you've seen Steve's questions come across the screen. If not, then look for them in our show notes, but where we will list those questions and have you prepare whether you no matter who you're working with. Great questions to ask. One of the things, I thought about this for most of my career. I will, when I get to the end of my retirement, or when I get to the end of my working time, I will just start spending less. So I don't really have to save quite as much as I've been earning. We'll really start, we'll buy the cheaper car, we'll buy the cheaper clothes, we'll go on the cheaper vacations, we'll do this, and we can do that.
We'll stretch.
Tell us your experience. How many of your clients have you seen do that at all, or well?
Yeah, that's a natural instinct to want to spend less, because sometimes you think about your resources and you think, okay, I've stopped filling the barn. Now, what am I going to do? And so we, close the door. We make the door, not a double door, but a single door. Yeah. And a couple of things. People go through spending cycles in their retirement. Those that retire really well are really clear about what they want and are really clear about what they're able to spend. So, and that, that gets into the planning process and everything, but they're really clear about what they want to do and what they want to spend. When you first go through the retirement phase, let's call it the first chapter of retirement, is getting used to each other. Because, honey, I didn't marry you I know I married you for life, but did I marry you for lunch? So it's getting used to each other. What happens is you tend to have more time available, and having more time available, you want to do things, and doing things may cost money. So you may spend a little bit more. We see people whose spending goes up versus what their normal or their earlier career spending cycle was. We see their spending go up a little bit. And maybe that, in terms of chapters, maybe that's for 8 or 10 years. Then we tend to see people's spending levels come down a little bit because they've done the things that they've wanted to do. They've done them when they were able physically to do them. And we're huge advocates to say, get out and enjoy, do the things you want to do. Don't go crazy. Put some boundaries around things, but enjoy while you can, travel while you can. Going, seeing Europe and not being able to get out of the bus because of the walker that you've got is not a great idea. So get out while you can, while you're physically able to. So that second phase, people's spending tends to come down a little bit. The third phase sometimes can be that their spending might come back up a bit. And that gets into needing and wanting more care, more support, delegating the things that you used to do, and paying someone to take care of those things for you. And then spending can go a little higher when people go into independent care and potentially longer term care. So we try to think about that in kind of sub chapters of that third of your life. And again, people that do it well, we have found, don't have a scarcity mentality, have an abundance mentality, but are wise and not going off the rails. Don't buy a boat unless you've got lots of commas. But unless you really, really, really want that, if that's your dream, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, so you talked about one of the questions, what's your unique strength, your talent, your gift? What's yours? What's Steve's unique strength and talent?
What would my best friend, Marie, say is my unique ability? I would say it's loving and caring, being a provider. I love being a provider, Jamie. I love being a provider. I want to be a great steward. I want to hear those words, well done, good and faithful steward. I love being a provider. I love stewarding, which is what we do here. We steward people's assets. We help them. We help them make wise choices with their resources. We help them make hopefully wise choices with their families. So, yeah, that's a great question. I want to write that down. What? That's a great question. Thank you.
So as we read, we're going to be doing this. I hope you'll come back, because there's just so many different things I want to unpack with you that you've talked about a little bit today. But you're in your mid-60s. What does finishing strong look like for you right now? When you think about this next season, however you want to define this season, what does finishing strong look like for you?
Yeah, and I, like you, our peers, we get that question, well, when are you going to retire? And my standard answer is, I'm going to retire when you read about it in the obituary. That I'll retire, about a week after it's on, you read about it in ink, which are newspapers, by the way.
Yeah, I remember those.
My next chapter, I love what I do, and I get to do this. And I'm in a very unique situation, very different than other people. There's not anything that I want to do that we don't do in terms of travel and play and goofing off. So I just happen to love what I do. And I would flunk retirement, the traditional definition of retirement. So I always tell people I am retired because I only do what I love to do. I write checks and delegate the things that I shouldn't do to people who are better doing it than I'm doing it. But that's, I need to be very careful with that because I have no business being judgmental. If someone wants to change because they are tired or because they don't have the zest with it, they don't feel energized. They think and they see what they wanted to accomplish accomplished, or they want to pass the baton to someone. That's great. What I encourage people to think about is, okay, you're going to retire from this career, this 40 years of muscle memory that you've done every day. 40 years, you've got great wisdom and muscle memory there. You're going to retire from that, but you're going to retire to something. What are you going to retire to? And, that gets to figuring out your purpose, figuring out your passions, realizing that you have the freedom to do that, the freedom to in terms of who you do that with, the freedom of resources, the freedom of your time and your purpose. And that's really important, I think, to get really clear about that.
That is maybe it's a time for my selfish plug, right? But that's really what we do on our Finishing Strong weekends, and it's what we try to provide the resources for, because I think people they plan, they talk about the money, they sit down with people in your industry and go, here's, give me enough money to live on it. Now I'm fine. They leave Friday, retiring from something, and then they're like, but I haven't thought about what I'm going to. And so it's really just encouraging people to take time away from the busyness and the craziness of life, focus on themselves, focus on looking at their past, what they have been good at, looking at their present, what they are good at today, who they are today, how they check in today, and then take all of that and plan for the future. So I've had the chance to observe you for most of your career, and you have not only, I have all the confidence in the world. You're not only going to finish strong, you've been finishing and living strong in marriage, at work, in your faith, and as a parent. And so it'll be fun to walk through this next season with you too. So Steve, I hope you come back and join us again and talk about a few more of these things. And people I know we'll give your contact for Prosperion in our show notes. Your book will be on our website as a resource. Your books will be on our website as a resource. And so thanks just for spending the time with us today. We really appreciate you and what you've done for us today.
Thank you, Jamie. Very grateful.
All right.
Thanks to Steve and all of you for joining us again today. You can get a link to Steve's books and learn about his firm again at www.prosperion.us, which you will find in our show notes. We look forward to you joining us soon for another Finishing Strong podcast.